My last reaction, Green won. Gorton and Denton, Green won. I mean, good luck, Labour. Good luck, Labour. The Green won Gorton and Denton by-election, which is crazy, to say the least. Essentially, it literally gives a sign to the UK, British public to say, if you want to vote a left, if you want to vote a progressive Liberal Party, the go-to isn't necessarily Labour. Labour is not the only option. You can vote Green, which is dangerous because that just fragmentizes the left vote completely. Labour is under much more pressure. This has nothing to do with the right vote. Labour has their right vote, yes. And I always said this was Labour's fatal flaw since they came into government. So this was 2024. They are trying to please the right. They're trying to be conservatives all the time. You didn't see Green coming. I'm gonna continue this later. So, if you didn't catch it the first gabajillion times, Hannah Spencer, the Green Party, won as in the by-election in Gorton and Denton. Now, why is this astronomical? Because I kid you not, this was my Super Bowl. Maybe an exaggeration. The point is, I was anticipating for this by-election for the longest time. And I don't remember anticipating for a by-election ever. So that says a lot. We're going to start from the start. So, the seat got freed up. Damn, by-election must happen. You know who stood up? The Labour tried to stand up for Labour representative? Andy Burnham. Here's the thing with Andy Burnham. In the spectrum of Labour factions, Andy Burnham's a bit more left. Not Corbyn, but soft left. Whereas, right now we have an expression that is blue Labour. That's the factionism we're working with now. Just look at Keir Starmer's government, and it's that. Poorly executed, might I say. But it's that. So, here's the thing. Andy Burnham, though, insanely popular. Probably the most popular politician in Labour right now. So, if he went up for the seat representative of Labour at Gordon and Denton, that opens risk for a leadership contest for Keir Starmer. Because he's insanely popular. He knows that. He's the mayor of Manchester, and he's been making his rounds. Like, don't really blame him. Anything can be more popular than Keir Starmer at this point. Here's the thing: he actually had a viable chance to, no offense West Streeton, but he actually had a viable chance to topple Keir Starmer in the leadership contest. And Keir, good old Keir, he saw that. He noticed that. Honestly, if he didn't, anybody could notice that. Everybody knew it was coming if he chose to stand for the seat because he wanted that leadership. And honestly, good for him, because maybe, just maybe, Labour would actually not be in shambles under him. But I guess we'll never know. Anyway, so obviously they blocked him because they're like, oh, but who's going to be mayor of Manchester? We don't have the funds for another election campaign. Holy cover-up. Bad. We all know you just don't want him to topple you as leader of the Labour Party. But moving on. Weak excuse. Andy Burnham is blocked. So, back to the by-election. We have this random person representing Labour. No offense to that person. I hope I don't meet them in a few years and they say, so you called me random. And I'm like, you're not Andy Burnham, so... And then, these by-elections, last minute. Like, they happened a few weeks after they were called. Like, we didn't know they were happening. So there weren't enough time to gather, like, poll predictions, so on and so forth. That's why it's so tense. Also, Gorton and Denton used to be a Labour safe seat. Oh, if you still think it's a Labour safe seat, no, honey. You are mistaken. Honestly, I don't know if any of the seats are safe for Labour in this current climate. But Gorton and Denton, for sure, was one. And now that we know is no longer one. But the beautiful thing with Gorton and Denton is the dichotomy. Denton has a large white working class population. Those white working class people you would expect to vote reform, if there's any that votes reform. Gorton has a large young Muslim population. People you would expect to vote a progressive party. Now, the thing is, which progressive party will that be? Because they would for sure have voted anti-Burnham. Let me just say that. Maybe if Andy Burnham was in the seat, because like these are all hypotheticals, would have showed up. But maybe if Andy Burnham was on the seat, he would have won. But either way, Keir Starmer wouldn't want that, because that just means his leadership is going away. Rightly so. Anyway, with such a big young Muslim population versus such a big white working class population, it was a gamble, bro. It was a gamble. Would anyone even go for Labour? But the really funny thing is the Labour really underestimated the Greens. They were like, no. Our problem here is reform. We have to keep reform out. If you really look at a strategic lens, weirdly enough, it would have been a better thing for Labour for reform winning, because they could have put out the good old, this is what happened when we fragmentized the progressive vote. Guys, vote Labour to keep reform out. You can't be gallivanting voting Green. We have first past the post. Vote tactically, for God's sake. But here's the thing. Reform didn't win. Green won by a landslide. So that shows, the progressive vote is fragmentized. But it is very much likely Green can win, because they did win. And they are on a tour alternative for Labour. We're not back to a corner thinking, the only viable progressive liberal vote is Labour. No. There's the Green. I don't know if you know about the Greens back in the day, but the Greens, I want to say they were a joke, but they were kind of Lib Dem lower territory, because what the hell are they actually doing? They were there. Yeah, there's more than a few parties. There's more than 2 parties. They were irrelevant, a placeholder, honestly. Now they're actually making a difference, in their position in society. They're significant. And I didn't expect that. I will say, and I will give credit to Zach Polanski, not because I met him and I talked to him. Thank you very much. Know who you're talking to. But also the things he's done, I commend him for that. The changes he's made to the Green Party, very reputable and successful. Hence, seen through the results of Gordon Denton by-election. Now, Labour can't use the card they used in the 2024 election. Say, you don't like Conservative? Vote us, because we're not Conservative. Now they can't use, you don't like reform? Vote us, because we're not reform, and we're keeping reform out. No, because you can also vote Green to keep reform out. So, hey. No. Sorry, but you have to think of policies, to get people to vote for you. You have to think of a good manifesto that, actually does stuff, doesn't just try to appeal to everybody. Yeah. I know that's going to be hard, Kier, but you got to do it. So do you want to still be a blue Labour? I was looking into the Greens win. Do you know what they did? They gave out leaflets in Urdu, because as I said, in Gorton, there's a really big Muslim population. And I'm assuming there's also a really big Pakistani population, as well as other countries that speak Urdu. I actually used to know how to say chicken in Urdu. Yeah. They were giving leaflets in Urdu. And I was like, that's a really nice touch. Having explained the mess, which was no Gordon and the by-election. Yeah, they won with a landslide of 41 points? 31? Nowhere near close second was Reform. Thank God. And then there was Labour. 3rd place in a safe seat. That's embarrassing. People are talking about, so I was talking to my friend about prospects of a coalition government. And honestly, I hope not. I mean, a lot of people hope against a coalition government, but I really hope not. And if there were to be one, my bets, and I guess the most popular bet, would be Labour and Green. I don't know how that's gonna go. I know Zach Pelansky. I know that. Zach Pelansky's not the one to negotiate. I mean, he would negotiate, but he's not the one to like hide behind the BS and be like, oh, we're buddy now. He's not a fan of keto. Anyways, so next segment. I'm not sick, I promise. Is some Green Party stance / policy. Nothing's really certain. The big one that was my friend's, I guess, the reason why he was iffy about voting Green. Like, I would love to vote Green, but it's like they're saying to give up the nuclear deterrent. Brother still wants a job because he does aerospace engineering, and apparently they make nuclear bombs from there. Anyhow, yep, me personally, that's not a crazy deal breaker. It was clearly a deal breaker for my friend, but oh my god, my crown is really pressing on my temples. His relationship with other countries. He wants to move to a lot of British manufacturing. I just think why heavily invest in a sector that inevitably is unprofitable. Like, I see why you wanna move any primary, secondary sector job back in the UK, but if it's just unviable, if it's inevitably not going to work, why do that? Just import. That's the beauty of globalization. And one person's import is another person's export. Keep that in mind. Obviously, there are instances where it's insanely cheaper because of the insane conditions which the export is made. But in that sense, if you even make sure that the exports are produced in a higher standard for the workers, it would still be cheaper than doing it nationally. And no shade to steel miners, workers. Tata Steel, leave it to China. Anyway, not rely on the US. They are US haters. I say they. A lot of the time when I talk about this, it is Zach Pelansky. However, they have a really unique form. Okay, they have a really unique form, which is it's led by a party rather than the party leader. What do you mean by that? The Green Party MPs actually choose on the policies. Whereas, if you look at the Tories, Labour, it's more like the leader and the cabinet chooses the policies. And then the members can backbench, do their thing, lobby, I don't know. Right. So that's the unique thing, is that despite Jack Palance having this opinion, he's like, I have this opinion. None of them agree with me, and that's totally okay. I just have their opinion. I'm not going to enforce that policy. That's just where I personally stand, and I'm going to do whatever the constituents want. And I really like that. I guess it's going to be really less effective or slower to pump out decisions, because there's so many more people to think about. I like that way of working in a party. Didn't know that worked. But anyway, he wants to not rely on the US to the extent it relies on. He also wants to change NATO's position and wants it to be less militant, or change the UK's role in NATO. He wants to rejoin the customs union, the EU customs union, which honestly, who doesn't? Who actually doesn't? Name me one politician. I don't think that's even radical to say anymore. People all we've all agreed we were better off in the EU. Yeah. What did I say at the age of 11? What did I say? And the Green Party altogether has a really big emphasis on cybersecurity and climate. They have an emphasis on climate, which is crazy to hear. However, here's the interesting thing. In Hannah Spencer, the MP, the Green MP in Gorton and Denton, in her speech, once the climate agenda was mentioned, Crazy, huh? Anyhow, as I was saying, he wants to stop the NATO nuclear first alliance. This guy hates nuclear bombs. I mean, they're all for climate. They're all for nationalizing, like, water companies, so on and so forth. Which, honestly, yeah, have you seen, like, Thames Water? Insane. Like, pumping flipping sewage. Insane. I always say there is some stuff that has to be state run. And, like, a lot of people believe that. Especially bare minimum necessities. Like healthcare, thank God it's state run. I look at the US, my fellow Americans, no shade. I look at the US and I think having like healthcare not being state run is insane. That is insane. Just with you go to emergencies and the amount of medication drugs they prescribe you, like, oh my God, I was listening to this podcast, insane. It was like this gal has ADHD and she diagnosed from like 8, 7. Bam, they gave her a drug. And then she got side effects, they gave her another drugs for those side effects, and it just cascaded. Like, drugs and drugs and drugs and drugs and drugs. It's insane. It's actually insane. Because in the end of the day, it's economics, you know. If it's not state run, there is going to be that pursuit for profit. And not the pursuit for the consumer's well-being. Which is, I don't think healthcare should solely led private. If you want to go, like, do your dentist private, go for it. But the point is, that option for state-run healthcare is important. And I see where water distribution could also fit in there. So, yeah. Proportional representation. They want proportional representation, which it would just, like, increase the chances for coalition government. Also, I had a PR was when I was doing Nazi German in history. And PR let the Nazi party gain traction. So, PR. Now, what people are more, concerned about? Wealth tax. I did my research. 1% on assets more than 10 million and 2% on assets more than a billion. The argument is, with this wealth tax, they're going to drive people out the UK. Now, as I said in my other video, I believe that it's an inelastic relationship. The raise in tax to the wealthy is always going to be more than proportional. The number of wealthy people, the number of these taxpayers leaving the country. There are going to be people leaving the country. Yeah, okay, sure. It's not going to be more significant than the amount of revenue it's going to bring. Also, I really like how he pinned it, which is like, it's a British value. If you want to stay in this country, you have to help your community. Whether that's like through this wealth tax, whether that's through any tax, you have to contribute to the tax system. Or the Green Party is trying to move tax from active earnings to tax to passive earnings. So, like, clamping down on capital gains tax, so on and so forth, whilst not necessarily focusing on income tax, which is really interesting because, like, the tax system targeted middle class workers. Like, the tax is highest for middle class workers, taking account the proportion of each class. Having that movement is going to be hard, but I see that. Also, scrapping council tax. They want to scrap council tax. I just know that council needs to be supported more. The councils are not supported at all. They want to, like, pump up borrowing. As long as borrowing is going to investments, borrowing's okay. And okay, you Keynesian, you go Keynesian. Really work on, like, the welfare state. Like, bring back programs like the Warmer Homes program, so on and so forth. So the prospect of austerity is nowhere near the future, which is a hey yeah for a lot of people. And that's what the Green Party is plotting right now. I hope it made sense. I hope it was interesting. And the US and Israel striked Iran. I think it was a matter of time. Trump was not going to, like, just say empty threats. Stay cool, stay educated, stay cool. Stay politically informed, politically aware. A lot of the things that I was talking to my friends yesterday is not enough people are, like, politically informed. And it's, if you're a UK citizen, go vote in those May by-elections. Go vote in the local elections in May. I'm voting for the first time, so vote with me.